Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Out of the Furnace, starring Christian Bale, Woody Harrelson, Casey Affleck, Forrest Whitaker, Willem Dafoe, Zoe Saldana, and Sam Shepard, directed by Scott Cooper. Now, apologies for those of you that were wondering where these shows have been going. I didn't mean to forget, it was just because I had a lot of things backing me up, and now I'm going back and catching up. So let's get into Out of the Furnace. I remember going to theaters for this thing, and what do I think of it? Well, let's get into it and we'll see. We started a drive-in movie theater, and we meet Harlan de Groot, or de Groot, something like that, played by Woody Harrelson, treating his girlfriend rather harshly as he gets in a fight with a man in the middle of the movie theater drive-in. And I do like Woody Harrelson as an actor, but I don't really like this character in this movie, as he's too despicable while working at a factory. We meet Russell Bays, played by Christian Bale, going to a place where his brother Rodney Jr., played by Casey Affleck, is at, and he bets on a horse race. And the shot was terribly balanced, in my opinion. Russell wakes up on one side of the bed, and on the other side is his girlfriend Lena Taylor, played by Zoe Saldana. And unfortunately, he has to go to work and acting like it ain't it. And the dialogue is written rather badly, as the characters are not as interesting as the last time in Crazy Heart. While Russell is visiting his father, his uncle Gerald Red Bays, played by Sam Shepard, is there, and nighttime gets in as Russell goes to get a drink at John Petty's bar, and Russell hears Harlan, and after he leaves, Russell gives John, played by Willem Dafoe, a check for his brother's debt. And next scene, he gets in a crash and sees someone dead in the car. And these scenes are filled with good actors, but is stuck in an unfortunate script. Russell is in prison as his only visitor is Rodney Jr., and I'm about 20 minutes into the movie, and I'm thinking this movie is pretty damn dry. For example, Russell gets in a prison fight, and they beat the crap out of each other as Russell's hair is growing and gets a visit from Rodney Jr. telling him his father is is in prison. And there were times that the camera was shaking quite a bit as the movie was shot pretty fucking badly, as I don't really like these characters in general. Russell gets out of prison and sees Rodney Jr., and so far I'm thinking, what the fuck is the point of this movie? As I'm, again, 20 minutes into it, and it's going absolutely nowhere. We learn Lena left Russell while in prison without a reason and is dating the chief of police named Wesley Barnes, played by a tremendous actor, Forrest Whitaker, and again, another tremendous actor stuck in an unfortunate script. Rodney Jr. fights for John with an African American fighter and wins the fight as he killed the man and cries about it. And Rodney Jr. wants to keep fighting as he comes home and he covers his face while it's all roughed up. And the acting in this is pretty damn bad. Russell goes back to working at the mill, which is surprising as he went to jail. As he comes home, sees a bloody knuckle from the trash can by Rodney Jr., and he comes home and wants to see his hands, and Russell suggests for Rodney Jr. to get a job at the mill and has a meltdown from his war memories while Russell is giving some advice that is pretty good, but instead he wants to fight, which he asks John to get a fight in New Jersey and begs John as he's trying to protect him and gives him the fight in New Jersey with Harlan. As he accepts, which is a poor acting choice for Casey Affleck, and a poor choice for the character, and a poor choice for the actor, Russell visits Lena while she works with some kids at the park and have a nice conversation until he brings up working things out with her, but he says to him she's pregnant with Wesley's baby. And they both cry to each other because she wanted a baby with Russell, and but this is having a baby with Wesley. And the scene is just heartbreaking, sure, to watch. And the scene didn't really work with the actors communicating. Like, they didn't give two shits about each other. That's how I felt they were acting. And they were trying, but it just didn't work. Uncle Red comes by the house and they visit the cemetery where his brother Russell's father is buried. and goes hunting together while Rodney Jr. is going to New Jersey for a fight. And do I care whether Rodney Jr. wins or loses? No, because I just don't like him as a character. Same goes with the other characters. Just John bringing Rodney Jr. to New Jersey, to Harlan, and tries to get his fighting face going on. As the fight begins, while Russell can't shoot a deer with a pistol. And what was the point of that scene? With Uncle Red and Russell hunting a deer. And this is a long movie at 2 hours and 10 minutes. And like 10 minutes could have been cut out of the movie, in my opinion. Rodney Jr. does what John wanted him to do, which was to throw a fight, but unfortunately, he does what he's asked and is killed over it because John didn't bring Harlan's money and gets gunned down by Harlan with John. And it was so goddamn hard to see that scene as it was too dark. And did director Scott Cooper afford any lighting system? Because it sure as hell didn't look like it. Also, it took him an hour to get to the point of the fucking movie. Wesley comes by the house to tell Russell and Uncle Red that Rodney Jr. was murdered by Harlan, and Russell is reacting rather harshly while Wesley is doing what he can with the case, and Russell wants Harlan's address and follows John's employee to the bar and hears where they're located at and asks around where Harlan is at and asks some residents as well as redneck gangsters and asks them for some drugs and goes to their house to find Harlan and acts all tough guy around a drug dealer who tells him to fire it up but doesn't as Russell asks around for Harlan but learns the house they're at is his house, and as they leave they get encountered by a cop. These scenes are ridiculous as it gets giving me a headache to the point I'm scratching my head. New Jersey police found Rodney Jr.'s dead body, and Russell is very sad about it as Wesley and Lena come by the place for dinner, and Lena tries to calm him down and to advise not to go after Harlan, while Forrest Whitaker's accent is with his rough voice or whatever isn't really the best choice for this movie, in my opinion, and I'm now getting bored with it at this point as it doesn't really want to move along, and I'm thinking, damn it, get the fucking movie going, as it's very slowly paced, and for long stretches of it, director Scott Cooper does a pretty poor job at getting to the point of this movie, as he's no Quentin Tarantino, Paul Thomas Anderson, and Christopher Nolan. The SWAT team comes in a building to find Harlan, but unfortunately doesn't find him as he knows they were coming, and I want Russell to get Harlan at this point and finish the movie. Russell wants to find Harlan as he calls him and tells him he's coming for him, as this will finally get hopefully good. Russell goes to New Jersey to confront Harlan in a diner with a pistol to visit the employee at the bar, while Russell breaks the car down and goes in the bar and tracks him down. As Harlan shoots the employee dead and Russell confronts him with the pistol and goes after him at the mill, while Wesley is on the way to the mill and Russell and Harlan wrestle it out, and Russell shoots Harlan in the foot and drags him out of the mill. When he tries to run and Russell aims the pistol at Harlan and shoots him down, he gets up and keeps taking for like the longest fucking time. And Russell confesses he's Rodney Jr.'s brother, as Harlan confesses he killed his brother and is surprisingly still walking, while Wesley shows up and Russell takes one last shot at Harlan's head, and we get one last shot of Russell sitting at a table. And what was the point of the shot, and what kind of an ending was that? Anyways, it's terrible, and the climax was dull. Dull, 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 dull. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 3.9 out of 10. The movie is badly shot, as there were times I couldn't see what the fuck was going on for a bit of it. The performances were terrible. For example, Forrest Whitaker's accent was not the smartest choice by director Scott Cooper. And the performers are good, but just stuck in an unfortunate script. The movie did feel pretty dry, and the writing did feel terrible, as this is a terrible fucking ending. and it was dull. And as for Scott Cooper, besides Hostiles, which I haven't seen yet, Antlers, which is coming soon, I'm very concerned for that movie because for his career, as this was a bad movie that I haven't seen Black Mass in a while, but I hear the movie was bad too. We'll see how that goes next time. So I'll be back next time with Black Mass. And until then, I'm back, motherfuckers.